Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Knee Bar Podcast, the video edition. I'm Johnny Brown alongside Nolan King, bringing our return in video form. So we hope you guys enjoy. Big fight card coming up next week, UFC Fight Week. Obviously, the big events, UFC 200. You have UFC Fight Night 90, Dos Anjos versus Alvarez, which is a really good fight. And also the Ultimate Fighter finale. Nolan, what do you think about those fights?
Oh, man, I couldn't be more excited. My first trip out to Vegas, I'll be there in person to see them. I can't wait, man. 200's exceeding everybody's expectations, I think, just from top to bottom. It's a phenomenal card. And then some, a lot of great prospects and some other fun title fights leading up to Saturday night that week. It's going to be some good stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, and, I think, like you said, there's been a lot of ups and downs about 200. There's also some rumored events, rumored fights that didn't go through. But I think overall, everyone should be pretty happy with it. Obviously, the big surprise that came out a couple weeks ago is Brock Lesnar making his return to the UFC against Mark Hunt, which is, I'm tuning in for sure, man. It's a fight that even if you don't like Lesnar or you don't like Hunt, it's going to be exciting. So I think everyone's pretty amped up for that. Also, you can't forget the main event, John Jones versus Daniel Cormier, and I'm really pumped, man. Let's just jump into it and preview some of these matches. The first event is going to be Thursday, the Fight Night 90, Dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. And, man, there's some good fights top to bottom on this. It's going to be on Fight Pass, so if you don't have Fight Pass, sign up for it. You can watch all these fights. I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just saying it's worth it. Trust me. Let's, what do fights stand out on this card to you, Nolan? And, let's get into some predictions.
Yeah, man, we can just run through the card. That would be great. The top two fights are awesome. There's some other good fights. We'll talk about them as we go along. But as of right now, starting off the card is Felipe Arantes versus Gerard Sanders. Arantes 17-7-1. He has not fought since last August. Gerard Sanders 15-3, coming off his first UFC victory over Russell Doan. It's kind of an interesting matchup, Johnny. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Felipe Arantes because I think he's just a more complete fighter. Gerard Sanders is, both have been kind of inactive, and Gerard Sanders, he's a big, tough wrestler. But I just think skill to skill, I think he's going to be a little outmatched. Arantes is inconsistent, as we've seen in the past, but I think he takes this victory. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, Arantes dropping down to 135 pounds, I think was a good choice for him. He looked great against Yves Jaboué back in August in, where was that? Was it Saskatoon?
Yeah, I think it was Saskatoon. Yeah, I think it was a Fight Night
somewhere. And
yeah.
He looked great in that fight. So it'll be interesting to see a second fight at 135, and I will take him I'll say decision. I'll say Sanders is able to wrestle him and neutralize Arantes' jiu-jitsu skills. And then moving right along, another bantamweight fight is the man I just mentioned, Russell Doan, taking on Pedro Munoz. This is a pretty even fight in my opinion, but I think that I'm going to have to lean towards Munoz personally. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Johnny, but that's just the way I'm going right now.
Yeah, like you said, this is a really good fight on paper. Both guys have came up with a little bit of hype. Doan had that really good quick submission in Singapore, but both guys have kind of been a little bit of a letdown. Pedro Munoz, the Punisher, I got him as well. I think Doan matches up really well against him, but I think Munoz is a little bit better everywhere. Maybe I think he ekes it out a little bit, maybe a split decision. But I got him taking the fight, and man, that's a really good prelim right there.
Yeah, that's really solid, man. Doan kind of fell off a little bit as of recently. He needs this win, I think, to stick around. And then Munoz coming off the split decision loss to Jimmy Rivera, who I think is one of the most underrated fighters in that division. So Munoz is definitely a game fighter. And sticking in the bantamweight division, we have a tough Brazil winner against a tough Latin America contestant. Sticking in the bantamweight division, Reginaldo Vieira takes on Marco Beltran. Probably not the biggest names, to MMA fans, but I think it could potentially, while being kind of lower level in terms of talent fight, I think that it definitely has potential to be an exciting fight. Who are you taking in that one?
I'm taking Vieira. I think it's a really good fight, though. I think Beltran is a guy that's He's 2-0 in the UFC. A victory over Marlon Vera is probably his biggest win. But he's a guy. I'm sorry, I got a cat over me. Excuse that. I think he's a guy that is very tough. But I think Vieira, I mean, we saw at UFC 190, he's just a tough guy. He has a lot of heart. And I think he'll take it. Again, this is another fight I could see going to decision, but I think it's a pretty exciting fight. Are you in the same boat as me, or how are you looking at this one?
I am, man. I think that, if you're just basing it off of their career thus far, I think that, historically tough Brazil fighters have been more advanced than tough Latin America fighters. And then if you just look at the individuals themselves, I think that Vieira's definitely got some good tools. I think that season, the Ultimate Fighter he was on was one of the better non-United States versions of the Ultimate Fighter that they've had in a while. I think a lot of the guys were, pretty far along compared to past seasons. And yeah, man, I think that Vieira is an exciting fighter, and I think that he'll get it done. I think it will probably be a decision. Beltran's a pretty tough guy to finish. So yeah, I'm going to go with Reginaldo Vieira by decision. Next up, we have lightweight fight between Gilbert Dorino Burns and Lucas Sajewski. Sajewski's 0-1 in the UFC. Gilbert Burns, more of a notable name. He's got some good wins under his belt, Alex Oliveira, and a couple other fighters as well. I'm going to take Gilbert Burns by submission. I think his submission skills are phenomenal. He's one of the head jiu-jitsu coaches at the Black Zillions, which tells you something, with him being so young. I think he's going to get a submission. I think Sajewski's going to survive for quite a while, but I think third-round submission for Gilbert Burns is the way I'm going.
Yeah, I think Gilbert Burns is obviously the more established fighter in this contest. Sajewski, 13-1, tough guy. 0-1 in the UFC. He's had a year layoff. His last fight was in Germany in June of 2015. So I wouldn't say that's something you get a lot of ring rust in the year, but it'll be interesting to see how he looks. But yeah, I say Gilbert Burns by submission, and Sajewski's a tough guy, but I think Gilbert Burns, like you said, he's just the more established name. The jiu-jitsu's off the charts, and he's definitely going to take this one.
That's for sure, man. And, the next fight is a good one, too. I'm kind of going a little out of order here. There's been some rumors in terms of what the fight order is going to be, but it has not been confirmed yet. I'm just going off of, the order they've been announced, really. So the next fight is a 170-pound matchup between Vicente, tough ATT versus the Black Zillions, versus Alvaro Herrera, who is from tough Latin America. Personally, I don't know that much about Herrera. I didn't watch that season of The Ultimate Fighter. I know that he had one fight in the UFC afterwards. But other than that, I couldn't really tell you much about him. Luque is a very durable guy. I think he's better than his record shows, coming off a very impressive win against Haider Hassan. And yeah, man, I'm going to lean with Luque. I think that, again, this is an instance where two tough seasons, one's way ahead of the other one in terms of talent. Herrera could change from what we saw in the last fight. He could be a lot better. But from what I know right now, I'm going to have to go with Luque. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going Luque. I mean, obviously, Herrera is more of an unknown. I did see that season, not all of it, but a lot of it. He's a tough guy. I think the talent's a little bit, matchups pretty close, but I think Luque is just more solid. His BJJ is going to be better. But, we saw his last fight. Herrera knocked out Vernon Ramos in 30 seconds. So he's got some power. Obviously, Luque, I think, is definitely a more established opponent than Vernon Ramos, who he fought in, I think that was August of last year, the Ultimate Fighter Latin American finale. So obviously a more game opponent, but he's got power, and it'll be interesting to see how this fight goes down. But I'm going Luque for sure. I think, he pretty much just what you said. He's got better overall, pretty much better fighter.
That's for sure, man. I mean, that's going to be a good one, and so is this one. Next up, this is a prelim that I've been looking forward to. I know you've been looking forward to. Another welterweight fight between Mike Pyle and Alberto Mina. Both these guys love to throw down. I'll give you my prediction, but first I want to hear yours. What do you got?
Man, this fight has got me pumped. I think Mike Pyle takes it. Both these guys are absolutely sluggers, man. They're always in interesting fights. Mina is undefeated. He's riding a wave right now. But Mike Pyle has been in there with everybody. He has, I think 30-plus fights. I think he's about 20. Yeah, he's 27, 11-1. So he's got, such a great veteran status in the sport. I think he takes this. But, man, I think this is one that you're going to want to watch, man. This is the one that you we may be talking about after the event as the show stealer. I want to hear your opinion on this one.
Yeah, I really think it's being overlooked. Alberto Mina has had 2 UFC fights, and they've both been extremely exciting. He just goes until he really himself out. In the last fight, he had 2 rounds that he just was going as hard as he could, and then that 3rd round he just gassed. His fight against Shinso Anzai, if you guys haven't seen that and you just have I think it ended in the 1st round. So if you guys have 5 minutes in your day to watch it and you haven't seen it, I definitely check it out. He's got good power. He's got good kicks, good leg kicks. And Pyle always seems to kind of, if he's fighting a very exciting opponent, he's going to have a very exciting fight. He's going to go out on it, he's going to leave it all in there. He's either going to go down or the guy he's fighting is going to go down. And I think in this case, Mike Pyle, the veteran, 40 years old, I think he's going to get another W. I think he's going to outlast Mina a little bit. And I think that he's going to TKO him in the 3rd round. That's just my opinion. I cannot wait for that one. Another one that I'm really looking forward to, Anthony Burchak taking on Delano Lopez. Lopez, another guy coming off tough Brazil. Burchak's coming off a loss to I zoned out.
Thomas Almeida.
Last, Johnny.
Thomas Almeida.
He fought. Oh yeah, he got KO'd by Thomas Almeida violently. Who do you have in that one?
I think Burchak. I think Lopez is 19-2, so obviously he's a tough guy. Burchak's been in the UFC for a year or so now, a little longer. He's had some performances against the Joe Soto knockout about 1 minute and 37 seconds in. Joe Soto's a tough guy. He also had that 1st round loss to Ian Entwistle by submission. But I think if you look at his record overall, he's fought some tough guys. Ryan Benoit, who's in the UFC, he beat him. Tito Jones, who's a pretty solid, regional veteran, he beat him with a choke. I think he's just a little bit tougher, a little bit better resume. But, it's just, man, these fights, these guys are so good in the UFC. This one could go either way, but I'm leaning towards Burchak. I think he will win via finish, but I think he'll be late in the fight.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of prospects from all over the globe on this card. I'm going to take Burchak as well. I think that he's 1-2 in the UFC. You could argue that the Entwistle loss wouldn't happen. If they fought 10 times, it would only happen maybe 2 or 3 of those times. I think Burchak is a way better fighter than Entwistle, but just made a stupid mistake and he paid for it. But I think that UFC, I'm not a guy that thinks that the UFC should coddle their prospects too much, but I think they've done kind of the opposite with Burchak. They've really rushed him in terms of giving him Thomas Almeida in his 3rd fight. Didn't really make sense to me. And he ended up paying for it. But I think that we'll see the real Anthony Burchak this fight. I think it's kind of a softball. No offense to Delano Lopez, but I think that this is a very strategically made matchup by the UFC, and I'm going to take Burchak by knockout in the 2nd round. And then moving along, keeping with our international theme, we have from France, Mehdi Baghdad taking on Canada's John Makdessi. Makdessi's obviously a veteran. He's been around for quite a while, coming off a tough, really close split decision loss to Yancy Medeiros. I thought Makdessi should have got that win. Then Mehdi Baghdad coming off a short notice debut after the season of The Ultimate Fighter that he was on, and he lost to Chris Wade in his debut by submission. Wasn't really able to show us much. I know he's a much better fighter than he appeared in that fight. Who do you got, Johnny? Makdessi's the favorite. Do you think Baghdad could get an upset?
No way. Speaking of softballs, I think this is a very bizarre matchup. I think Baghdad has some talent, but John Makdessi, if you think of this record, 13-5, he had a couple of split decisions that could have went his way. He could be, could be looking at 15-3. I mean, he's a tough, durable guy, maybe outside the elite, but he's still very good. I think Baghdad is just in way over his head. I think Makdessi finishes by knockout in the first 10 minutes of this fight. I think he'll finish him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Baghdad is, was a prospect that I was really high up on going into the Ultimate Fighter, and I think he really had a really disappointing time on the Ultimate Fighter. I had picked him to win that whole show, and he came out first episode and put a beating on Artem Lobov, in what was a war, and it just seemed like from there it kind of went downhill. He ended up losing, getting eliminated from the competition, doesn't get signed by the UFC, then takes a short notice fight. Chris Wade just gets dominated. So maybe he's going to go back to his old self. Maybe he's progressed a lot. But again, I got to go with what's proven. John McDessie, dude that's hung in there with Donald Cerrone, who has good kickboxing skills, who's able to, be a guy that you can throw in against anybody, really, and he'll have a competitive fight. So I think Baghdad's a little bit over his head in this one. I'm going to go with McDessie by knockout as well. And now we move on to the presumptive main card. It's not been fully announced yet what the order is, but I've seen on some sites that it's listed as this being the main card. Kicking off the main card, Alan Jouban versus Belal Muhammad. Muhammad is the Titan FC welterweight champion, making his UFC debut on somewhat short notice. Jouban always brings it, puts on an exciting fight, coming off a quick squash match against. This is a fight that I think is phenomenal. It's right up there in with John. Who are you taking in this one? Does Belal get it done in his debut or the W?
I'm picking Muhammad, man. Jouban's exciting. He's a good fighter. He's one of my favorites to watch. I think Muhammad's going to go in there and be a little more technical and pick up the win. Jouban seems to be in wild brawls. If he can put Muhammad in that situation, I'm going to lead Jouban. But I think Muhammad's going to be a little more technical, kind of like what he did in Steve Carl. He was very technical, and he ended up finishing him. I think it's going to be a decision. I'm going to go with the Titan FC welterweight champion, Belal Muhammad. I think he gets – I don't know if it's an upset. I don't know the odds. I imagine it would be an upset. I'm picking him to go 10-0.
Yeah, man. So you're right. That would be an upset. I'm going to also go in him only fight a couple times. I haven't been able on him as I may have wanted. Fans always get, so I could see it really going split on it, but I'm going to lean Belal Muhammad, and I think your category. So yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to take Muhammad, man. I agree with your pick there. Moving up to the next fight, I think this one's going to be little bit on the Canadian Mitch from over a year layoff to get the upset, or do you think that
Yeah, I think this fight's gonna be pretty interesting. Mitch Clark's a tough guy for sure. Joe Duffy coming off his first UFC loss against Dustin Poirier. I think Duffy gets this one done via finish. I think this is a pretty exciting fight. I think this one's Joe Duffy's fight to lose. So I think he's just a little better overall in general, and he'll take this one. I'm excited about this fight, though. Canadian versus the Irishman. Even though Joe Duffy fights with TriStar in Montreal, so this should be interesting. Two guys that live in Canada going at it in Vegas.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be good. And I'm taking Duffy as well. I just think that Clark's not going to be able to, to take Duffy down. I could see him taking him down, but I don't think he's going to be able to really do anything. I think Duffy is probably going to start him. Clark's always game, always is in there, and Roy Lewis is the next fight. Co-main event chance. In my opinion, I'm going to lean with Roy Nelson. I think that the veteran will get it done. Derek he's had his losses in the UFC to Sean Jordan, who was a ranked fighter at the time, to Matt Mitrione, who was ranked at the time. He's never beaten a ranked fighter. His best win's Gabriel Gonzaga, but he has looking unbelievably awesome. He's a powerweight division. Anything can happen. I am going to lean. How about you, Johnny?
I'm going with Roy Nelson. I'm going to have him be a knockout. I think Lewis is a guy that's very talented. Don't get me wrong, but like you said, he hasn't beat any ranked guys. He feasts on the guys outside the top 15. And I think Nelson's just a proven veteran with heavy hands. Lewis, obviously he's been knocked out by Jordan, and he's had, Mitrione and all that. But he's a guy that I'm not sure if he can take a Roy Nelson bomb. And Nelson has, he's been knocked out a couple of times by, Hunt and Arlovsky earlier in his career. His chin's held up very well for 265. I'm going Nelson in this one. And this is a really good fight. This one's been one that I think a lot of people want to see for a while.
Right, man. It's hard for me to go against, Royce Chin, and I completely agree with you there. Next fight, another great one, Rafael Dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. I can't wait for this one. I really don't. Alvarez is a guy that I've seemingly picked against in a lot of fights, and he's proven me wrong. I think that this is going to be a close matchup. I think Dos Anjos will just be a little bit too much for him. I'm going to take Dos Anjos by a competitive but definitive enough decision win. Come July 7th, or you think we'll be hearing Instill, Johnny?
My brain says Instill, but I've been feeling since this match but now, so we'll see. And new Eddie Alvarez, 155-pound champion in the UFC. I just feel like he pulls it off. I'm not sure how. I just have that gut feeling. Dos Anjos is he's a tricky guy. He's had his losses in the UFC, but he's looked phenomenal the last couple fights. Ever since his loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's been on that streak. Alvarez is a tough guy. He has obviously good tools. He's been a Bellator champion. He's a tough guy. He wouldn't be getting this title shot if he wasn't. I feel like he'll just maybe grind it out a little bit. Dos Anjos, I think, will try to go in there and just dominate him like he has in some of his past fights. I think Alvarez maybe wins a split decision. I can see going either way. This one's a great fight. I really could not tell you 100% who I think is going to win, but I'm going to go with Eddie Alvarez, and let's see how it goes.
Well, that's a good agree on that one, but yeah, man, I think we're going to be back in a little bit with our predictions on the tough finale.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good, man. I can't wait for all these fights, man. They're really going to be really good.
Going to be